Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion for May 3rd, 2012. It is currently 7:34 a.m. and as you can see, it's pretty cloudy outside. We have another disturbance that is moving through the northern mid-Atlantic. For the majority of the region, the rain is pretty much over. The heaviest rain is done as this disturbance is diving south. But as you can see, see all these black circles here? That means overcast skies. So we're definitely starting off the morning very cloudy, and temperatures range in the upper 40s to the lower 50s throughout the northern mid-Atlantic. So what can we expect for today? Well, the key point here and the key observation to keep an eye on is fog and low clouds. Why? Well, you see all this fog and low clouds? Once this lifts, temperatures are going to spike and rise rapidly into the 70s and possibly even the lower 80s for some locations throughout the northern mid-Atlantic, while other locations, especially right along the coast, will have a harder time with temperatures rising only in the lower to mid 60s. So let's dive into this forecast and see what exactly is going on. First of all, I want to show the radar. You can see we have one more thunder shower that's moving through central New Jersey this hour. That thunder shower will continue to dive through Monmouth County into the coastal waters of Ocean County and exit off the New Jersey coast. The rest of the northern mid-Atlantic is basically dry but overcast, with maybe a little bit of drizzle over portions of southern Connecticut and Long Island. So that steady heavy rain is done with that disturbance diving south. When we take a look at the surface map, you can see this stationary front right here. This stationary front will become a warm front and will basically be the dividing line between locations that will see very pleasant and warm conditions this afternoon and other locations that will continue to remain in the cloudy, overcast, cool weather pattern that we've been in since yesterday. So you can pretty much guess where the coolest locations are going to be, which will be right along the coast. And the reason why is because ahead of this warm front that will start to move east, you'll end up with easterly winds. And those easterly winds will transport a marine air mass or air mass from the Atlantic Ocean into locations like coastal New Jersey, Long Island, much of Connecticut, and portions of the Hudson River Valley, keeping temperatures in the 60s. Now, the further east you are, the cooler you'll be. So if you're on the east end of Long Island or eastern Connecticut, look for temperatures in the lower to mid 60s. As you move towards New York City and right along the New Jersey coast, look for temperatures in the mid to upper 60s, pushing 70 degrees over portions of Newark. And then as you head towards the Delaware River, well, that's where temperatures are going to push into the lower to mid 70s. And then west of the Delaware River, temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, possibly touching 80 degrees. On the water vapor satellite picture, you can clearly see our disturbance diving south. Another disturbance over the Great Lakes will continue to move northeast with this low pressure system. Now, as this low pressure system moves northeast, the warm front will also move to the east and eventually pass into New England, but that won't be until later on tonight. And then tomorrow we'll experience warm conditions throughout the northern mid-Atlantic with temperatures pushing into the mid to upper 70s along the coast and upper 70s to mid 80s away from the coast. Take a look at the latest visible satellite picture. I want to show this because it really kind of highlights exactly how this whole weather pattern is going to transpire today. As the sun rises, these low clouds are going to burn off, and as the atmosphere mixes, that warm front, that stationary front that is currently over central Pennsylvania, is going to rapidly jump east. And you'll notice that, especially if you're in, say, Philadelphia or around Scranton or anywhere like Lancaster, Pennsylvania, for example. Those locations will see their temperatures rapidly rise later on this morning and early this afternoon into the 70s, and it will feel much warmer than what it does right now. Along the western portion of New Jersey, along the Delaware River, as the clouds break up, you'll see your temperatures steadily start to rise, and eventually you'll push into the lower to mid 70s. However, right along the coast and over much of eastern New Jersey, this overcast cloud cover will remain in place, and as a result, because of that easterly wind, temperatures will have a harder time rising only pushing into the mid to upper 60s. Now, you'll know when the forecast has gone a little bit awry and that temperatures will spike warmer than what's expected if you start to see cloud cover really start to break up and your wind shift from the east to the southwest. If that happens, look for your temperatures along the New Jersey coast to spike into the lower to mid 70s. However, if the overcast conditions continue, well, then unfortunately we're looking at another cool day in and around the New Jersey coast and over New York City. So what can we expect for the rest of the week and into the weekend? Well, I have a little bit of good news. Of course, for this evening, our low pressure system starts to drive north. Now, this upper level low over the Atlantic is basically blocking up this pattern over the higher latitudes. So as a result, you get these disturbances driving into northeastern Canada, stalling out and becoming part of this upper level low. So tonight, that low pressure system drives north. The warm front moves north with it. By tomorrow, you can see that this upper level low is a little bit further east. The upper level trough over southeastern Canada is also a little bit further east, and the trough axis is through the northern mid-Atlantic, which means that our warm front is to the east of the region, which means that we warm up nicely into the mid to upper 70s along the coast, upper 70s to lower 80s away from the coast. And the threat of showers will be significantly reduced. Only isolated showers can be expected at this time. However, any of these disturbances that move through will have the potential for producing an isolated severe thunderstorm. So that's something to keep an eye on for tomorrow afternoon. Yes, there won't be any widespread precipitation, but where thunderstorms do develop, they will have the potential to produce very heavy downpours, frequent lightning, and even some small hail. So something to keep an eye on. For this weekend, high pressure will briefly take control from the Tennessee River Valley, producing tranquil weather conditions for basically Saturday afternoon, Sunday, and Monday. I can't rule out an isolated shower, but most locations will remain dry, with temperatures ranging in the upper 60s to mid 70s, slightly above normal for this time of year. Overall, a pleasant weekend can be expected. For early next week, we're going to keep an eye on this very strong cold front that will move through the Great Lakes and eventually move through the northern mid-Atlantic. The potential for severe thunderstorms will increase on Wednesday afternoon for the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan area. It's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on, with the thunderstorms potentially producing some pretty strong wind gusts, heavy downpours, and frequent lightning. So it's something to keep an eye on for Wednesday. We have a long way to wait, but it's certainly starting to stick out as a potential severe threat. But also notice our weather pattern overall, our 500 millibar pattern, is progressive in nature, with one disturbance after another moving through the northern tier and heading towards the northern mid-Atlantic. So we're going to continue in this type of weather pattern where we get cool and then very, very warm, back to normal, above normal, back to normal again. So it's kind of a swing back and forth here for the next couple of weeks as we deal with each one of these disturbances moving through, with conditions warming up ahead of them and falling back to normal once again. The key factor here is just how far north and east these warm fronts get ahead of these cold fronts. And that pretty much is what's controlling our weather pattern for this week and likely next week as well. Well, that is your forecast discussion for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. You can always follow the latest weather information at nynjpaweather.com and nynjpaweather on Twitter and Facebook. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there.